Welcome, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. This is Outdoor Auto Shop Talk Live. I've actually been trying to do one of these all day, and we've been running into technical difficulties, and there's an electrician that is working on the shop who might come back and make a bunch of noise, but we're going to go for it anyway. If you guys have questions, make sure to put it in the comments section. I got a lot of questions because a couple weeks ago, I was able to drive one of the brand new 2025 Toyota 4Runners, the Trailhunter. So that was part of a commercial that I was on. So it's not a video that I filmed for my channel. It was something where I was hired to be a guide and be a driver and I guess act in it, but I'm not much of an actor. So anyhow, a bunch of people were asking questions of how it went with that car. So if you guys happen to have questions on the new 2025 4Runners, you can put them in and I can do my best job to answer. I did get to drive it a lot. Over 4 days, I was in it for anywhere from 10 to 14 hours a day. And I got to take it on some really interesting terrain. So we definitely, I definitely got the chance to actually beat it up and 4x it. There's some photos from that trip that was actually pretty interesting. Yeah, we got it out in the mountains, up on some trails. I got it sideways enough at one point that the cameraman that was shooting it from the side thought it was going to fall on top of him, so he ran away. It did not fall on top of him. I did not roll, the only trail hunter in the world. I was told I was not allowed to dent any side panels. But we did get to test out its full flexibility and everything like that. So it was a pretty fun trip. We took it up some real steep, slick roads. There was, of course, all the fires going on. If you're looking at this picture right here, actually, you can see some of the fires. In fact, while we were up in the mountains filming, a new fire started, and there's only a couple ways out of the mountains where we were at, and one of the ways got shut down while we were up there. So the fires are pretty nuts. This isn't even a commercial. We actually were using Onyx to track the fires and figure out if the roads were closing down or not. And it was pretty handy because they added that fire layer to it. But yeah, so some people are interested in this. I know other people have tire questions and other build questions. Like I said, whatever questions you have, feel free to put them in the comments. But yeah, I will tell you this, the 4Runner, the one thing that was interesting, so you guys know this, I have a Tundra, I have the V8, I love the V8s. My wife has an old, 100 series Land Cruiser that's from 2000, and we're working on a build on that right now, and that has a V8. I'm a big fan of bigger engines. So I hadn't ever driven any of the new Toyotas that had like the turbos and the 4-cylinder turbo and all that kind of stuff. And I was, being 100% honest, I was actually kind of blown away by it because it's fast. Like I've owned, I've owned 3 different 4Runners over the last 27 years. I don't think I've ever called a 4Runner fast before. But this thing was actually pretty fast. So I was pretty surprised by that. The turbo on the thing works. And the turbo makes a lot of noise. Not that you can really hear from inside the car. That's what's kind of surprising. Inside the car, you can't hear much. It's pretty quiet. But if you roll down your window, especially the side of the car that has the snorkel, the built-in snorkel that comes on the Trailhunter, the turbo is super loud and the blow-off valve is super loud. So yeah, that was definitely pretty interesting thing to find out as well. Really quick, I'll do the standard check that I do in the comments just to make sure somebody can hear me. So give me a nice friendly tech check if you guys can actually hear me in the comments. You always got to check that because technology seems to like to betray us the worst times. It'd be really weird if I was sitting here talking to myself this whole entire time. So, comment check. Can anybody hear me? Oh, there we go. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, for anybody that's got questions, throw them into the comment section. Another thing, I did just put out a video earlier today on the 80 series Land Cruiser. That's the orange one. There's a video a couple weeks ago where we put a lift on it and we had the wrong springs and everything, and the geometry got off to where we were having problems with everything. We were having problems with the drive shaft angle. We were having all kinds of issues. So we went ahead and decided to go to work on that and fix it. And that's what this week's video is about. We did change up a bunch of stuff. We got our geometry fixed, and then we were able to take it out on a light rock crawling adventure just to test everything out. So that was pretty fun. That video is a fun one to check out if you guys have ever considered doing rock crawling. Maybe you're an overlander, but you want to dabble in it. That was a great trail. That was really fun to run. That you could definitely do in an overland vehicle, but it's a good shakedown trail, and we had a blast on it. So if you get a chance, the link for that is in the comments. That's a good video for tonight. I'm curious how many of you are probably watching football and stuck in between the early games and waiting for the late game. Hopefully all your fantasy football teams and dreams are coming true. Mine are mediocre at best. Yeah, so I'm curious, since our last one of these, we did have quite a few regulars that checked in on different builds that they were doing and different questions and tire stuff. So curious how any of that is shaping up for everyone. A few other updates for the channel. If you are a regular watcher of the channel, you're going to see behind me, there's a bunch of changes happening. We put in a bunch of new shelving, and that is all to get the shop more organized because I'm actually getting some help in the shop. So we have a person starting in about a week in the shop that's going to help me out so we can actually get through some of this stuff quicker, get videos out quicker for you guys. We're actually trying to move to a 2-video-a-week schedule. And we also have help from an editor finally for the first time ever. So in the past, I've been doing it all by myself with the help of my wife. It's been pretty busy trying to keep up. So I'm pretty excited for the future of this channel, by the way. We did get our little, you can't really see it, it's right there. We did hit our 100,000 goal. That was crazy. I put out a little thing maybe 2 weeks ago, and I said, I don't know if we're going to make it to 100,000 this year, but if you're watching, you want to help us out, go for it. And then we went to 100,000 in like 10 days. So you guys are awesome. Thank you for supporting the channel. It really means a lot. And it was super awesome to be able to hit that goal. It was supposed to be the end of the year goal. So I guess, I don't know, now we got to hit 150,000. We've got some cool tire videos coming up. Oh, unplanned adventures. Thank you. Yeah, the FJ80 video, that's a fun rig, and I love it even more now because we changed out the suspension on it, and there's a problem. If you soften suspension up too much, then you have too much body roll, which that one had a lot of body roll because it has no sway bars. But then if you harden up the suspension, it's not very good for rock crawling. So we actually went with some variable springs on there and some shocks that we can adjust when we're off-road versus on-road. And that ended up working really well. And now I like that vehicle a lot as well. We also shifted that front axle an inch forward, which helped us fit bigger tires on it, which was pretty cool. So now we don't have any of the rub issues that we had before. So pretty excited about taking that on a really hard trail coming up here soon. Be interesting to film that and see how that goes. We've got some hard trails up here actually in the Waihees. So we're going to go test it on some Jeep trails and see if we can keep up with some really, really big Jeeps. I hope we can, but I don't know. Beyond that, I was going to tell you guys one other thing. What was it? Oh, as far as tire stuff coming up, we finally got through testing the entire Falcon Wild Peak lineup. So we have a video coming out on that, which is kind of cool because it's from the very basic tires all the way to the very aggressive tires. So there's good stuff in there to kind of learn when is a good time to graduate from one tire to the other. And then also with the classic, like rugged terrain tires, every brand has done rugged terrain like RT tires differently. Some of them lean more towards AT tires. Some of them lean more towards mud terrain. So it's a really confusing category. So we got some videos even just only on rugged terrain tires coming up as well to try to help with clear up some of the confusion there. And then we also have been testing the entire BFG lineup as well. So we'll have a video on their lineup from most basic all the way to the most aggressive. So that's one of the things that, like, because of you guys supporting the channel and the channel's growth, tire companies have now become willing to send us like a full lineup of tires for testing. So we're not signing any exclusives. We can say good things about them. We can say bad things. We can do whatever we want. But because of the amount of views that this channel gets on tires, we can now do testing of entire lineups, which is really cool. Some of them are good. Some of them are going to have mediocre reviews, but mostly that's all because of all you guys. Got Jesse Rosenfield just ordered some 3712.5 Baja Boss ATs. That's one of the companies I'm reaching out to, actually. I would love to do their whole lineup. I've always been a big fan of Mickey Thompson's. They make a lot of different tires that are really good and aggressive if you're going to get into the rock crawling world. But the Baja Boss is just an awesome AT tire as well. So that's a really fun tire. That's one of my favorite tires to run on my Tundra. So I think you're going to like those. Hopefully you get them pretty quick. I'm curious, when you order tires, I'm actually, for anybody in the chat, this is something I've been trying to figure out. When you go to a tire shop, they almost always try to sell you whatever they can get quick or whatever they have in stock. That's been my experience. So they don't really listen to what you're telling them that you want. They just try to sell you what they have. I kind of bag on tire shops a lot, but I've had enough negative experiences. I kind of started to give up on them. So I'm curious, like when you ordered yours, Jesse, like I tend to order tires from Tire Rack. Tire Rack is not a sponsor of the channel at all. I just happen to live in Idaho, which is usually way off of most people's delivery paths. And somehow they get me tires in 24 hours sometimes and never more than like 48 hours. But I have a tire machine here, so I can install and balance my own tires in the shop. So I'm curious, when you guys order tires, where do you order them from? And then when you do order tires, do you, like Tire Rack has where you can book with like a mobile install, they'll actually come to your house and do the installation, which I kind of like because then you can watch them do it and see if they're actually doing things correct. Or you can order them to where they get shipped to a local tire shop and then you just show up there and they install them. So I'm super curious, where did you order your tires? Was it through a normal tire factory or did you go through somebody like Discount Tire or Tire Rack or something like that? I've been enjoying being able to get my tires off of Tire Rack myself. We've got another 80 series fan. Love all the 80 series content. Looking forward to more. I'm planning to go with some Delta arms soon, but just glad I've stopped all the leaks for the time being. So I have a second 80 series that's sitting in the back right there. You can't really see it through the window. And it's the same issue. So those front three seals that are super common and leak, I need to pull all those out and replace those seals. So I hear you. I know exactly what you're going through. But once you get those leaks done, you've got yourself a really, really good vehicle. Those things are so great. The axles on them are so good. So have fun with that. Love those cars. Trucks. I don't know what you call SUVs, I guess. Matthew, DGen, I just purchased 285 Baja AT on my Frontier and I love them. That's awesome. The Baja AT really is a very good all-around tire. I think the only complaint that people are going to have that are new to it, if they haven't been used to it, is it's an amazing all-around tire and it's actually really aggressive, but it does wear quick. So it's not going to last as long as like a KO3, and it's not going to last as long as like a Falcon AT4, but if you take that thing to Moab, like its performance off-road and in the mud particularly, it's going to outperform both of those tires by a long shot in those like super aggressive off-road scenarios. So it's a really amazing tire. And I'm not saying it's going to get short life. Like it's going to get its warranty. It's just not one of those tires that's going to far outlive its warranty. So hopefully everybody knows that that's getting those. I love those tires though. What are your thoughts on a Nissan Titan as an overlanding vehicle? It's a little bit the same size and weight and width. It's really similar to a Tundra, actually. It's all with Nissan. Everything comes down to individual years. They had individual problems, and certain things they'd fix. It was like I love the Nissan Xterra, but you have ones where they had problems with the radiator that caused big deal issues. You had ones, I know a radiator sounds easy to fix, but I believe they had a problem with the radiator where it was leaking fluid back into something else, causing big problems. You have some years with transmission issues. You have some years with engine issues. So with the Nissans, the Xterra and the Titan, it's just a matter of do your due diligence and figure out what years you're supposed to buy. Beyond that, they have a lot of pieces that are really, really super respectable. In other countries, they have the Nissan Patrol, and there's a reason that thing's as famous as it is. We're going to have some noise in a minute because I think the electrician's going to come in and finish working on his job, but we'll keep this going for a little while. So just apologize about the noise in the background. Looks like, okay, we got somebody that was answering my question. I was super curious. When you guys order online, how are you getting your tires installed? So you order from Tire Rack, but the mobile installation was a no-show twice. Hold on, you're good to go. Just go ahead and work. I'm just talking to people on here. So yeah, Tire Rack was a no-show twice. That's interesting. So I guess that's going to depend on your area because they're just sending out referrals to local installers. Curious how you ended up getting them installed, if you ended up just taking them into a shop. Matthew, I was in the tire industry for 28 years and that management pushing the profit line. Yeah, I think there's two big things with tire stores right now where I give them a bad rap, but the two biggest things that I see is the chains just don't I don't think they even have enough margin to pay people very well. So the pay is low enough that they can't keep skilled workers. Anybody that gets in there that really knows what they're doing and gets really good ends up going to probably a smaller shop or moving on in their career into other jobs as a mechanic and stuff where they can get paid more. So it's if you think of what you get paid at a tire shop, I don't think it's possible for them to hold on to people that know what they're doing. So you end up with a lot of people that don't know what they're doing in tire shops right now. Let's see what this is. Ever think of dipping in old Land Rover Defenders? I would love to build one. I swear, anytime I think of this stuff, and you guys bring it up, there's the other channel that obviously is a friend of mine because I bought his Land Cruiser. He's building a Land Rover Defender right now. He just put out a video last week. I'm talking about the channel Dirt Lifestyle. If you guys check that out, he took a Land Rover Defender body with engine, and he just axle swapped it for the axles from an 80 series Land Cruiser, which I think is a really good idea, actually, because it's a significantly lighter vehicle than the Land Cruiser. Yet you're going to have those really strong axles. So when you think of like axle strength to the weight of the actual vehicle, that's going to be a pretty awesome build. And I'm sure he's going to do a bunch of other stuff to it. So I would love to probably look at, I love the body style of the old Land Rover Defenders. You guys know this, like Land Rover has some kind of reputation for these crazy adventurous vehicles back from like when they did the camel challenges around the world. But they also have like notoriously rough reputation for like rust and electrical issues and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like if you're going to build an old Land Rover Defender, in my world, I'm not doing like a restoration, make it pretty. I would be just, it'd be a Frankenstein that I would try to build into an off-roader for sure. Hi, Golf is checking in. Good to see you. I think you've made almost every single one of these. Angry Camper, unpopular opinion, twin turbo four bangers, they will never stand the test of time in off-road vehicles. I'm not arguing with you. There's a reason I don't have any new Toyotas right now, and I build lots of old Toyotas. I'm okay with not being a race car going everywhere, other than the Tundra, where it's a V8 and it's supercharged. But other than that, all of the other cars that I've built are slow. And I drive around town slow. I drive like an old man. So I don't really mind it. But the new turbo, yeah, the new turbos, 4 cylinders, they're really fast also because some of them have the performance battery that gives them more torque, low end torque. So the low end torque carries the bottom until the turbo kicks in. So you just have smooth power all the way through. But the reality is with the turbos, you're always taking a smaller engine and you're trying to figure out how to get more power out of it. And that usually increases the wear. Modern science and a lot of people that build engines are saying that's not true. They're saying they've gotten good enough at this that they know how to get more power out of an engine and still have it be reliable. But we're only going to know because think about it. The average Toyota on the road can go 250,000 miles. So we've got years until any of those turbo 4s are going to have that many miles, and we're going to see how well they do over time. Obviously, we've already seen some hiccups, but most of the hiccups we've seen so far don't tend to have a problem with the design of the engine. It has to be a problem with the manufacturing of the engine. So jury's still out, but I would, Angry Camper, I mean, in a weird way, odds are in your favor that your statement is probably true. It's just, it's tough to get more power out of a smaller engine and not have something break. Jesse Rosenfield, I went discount tire for lifetime balance and rotation. They asked why that tire. I told him it's the most aggressive 3-peak rated tire. It is. Dude looked at me and said, sounds like you did your research. He probably just said, sounds like you did your research. I have nothing to add to this conversation. That's awesome. Yeah, I think if you guys are going into a tire store and you've done your research and you know what you want, you're going to have to probably hold to it and battle through, because they may have tires that they get higher margin on that they'll push really hard because they make more money off of that set. They may not have those tires in stock and they know it'll take them too long. So then they know that you're going to go to somebody else. So you can run into tire places and they will try to talk you out of stuff pretty hard a lot of times just based on that kind of thing. So yeah, do your research. Yeah, this is true. Angry Camper. There aren't a ton of aftermarket parts for a Titan. There aren't a ton of aftermarket parts for Nissan in general in the United States. In fact, the main reason the Xterra works so well as an off-road vehicle in the US is because you go and cannibalize the parts off of Titans to make them stronger, and you suddenly end up with a really good off-road vehicle. If you're willing to do a decent amount of cutting, you can take an Xterra, cannibalize parts from a Titan, you can put 35s on it, and you basically have close to the equivalent of stuff that was made for like a, half-ton, 3/4-ton truck. So yeah, that's going to be the hard part. If you get into modifying Titan, you're going to have to get into fabrication for sure. Mr. Angry Camper, live up to your name, and I agree with you. Discount tire, another vote for discount tire. Man, okay, so this is closing the loop on when you had the mobile install, they ghosted you twice, and then they finally showed up the third time and gave you a $100 credit. I'm curious how that option works. So people down here in Idaho have been using it, and I haven't heard any complaints yet, but that could just mean that we just have a good local servicer. Let's see what else we have here. I think there's some truth to this. What Angry Camper's saying on the Nissan Titan, if you can, the price on things like the Tundra are coming down. Heck, even prices on, I can't believe I'm going to say this, on first gen only, first gen Raptors are coming down. A lot of those things are all coming down because they're old enough. But if you pick the right years where they were actually reliable versus the wrong years, like the first gen Raptor, I would never buy a Raptor of any of the other years, but the first gen Raptors were pretty amazing, actually. The pricing on a lot of that stuff is coming down far enough. I would look into stuff like that where either it already has aftermarket parts that are great for overlanding, or something like a Tundra where the aftermarket is really big now. There's tons and tons of support for modifying them. Titan is still rough. You know what's ironic is even Ford one, like F-150 is still rough for modifications for actual like off-road and overland. There's plenty of stuff from Skyjacker if you just want to put 6 to 8 inch lift on it and giant tires, but that will ride miserable on the dirt. Looks like we got another 80 series fan. Okay, here we go. So we received the Falcon AT4s from Simple Tire. I'm talking to Simple Tire right now, actually. They want to team up on something. So price seemed okay, delivery in 2 days, but they messed up and sent one Yokohama. So you got a mismatched tire. Ouch. Okay, well, they might be still working some kinks out. I know they're newer company. I don't think they've been doing it quite as long. Purchase from Tire Rack and have them installed by local tire shops that have road balancers. Nice. That works. That's a good idea. Let's see what else we have going on here. I'd rebuild my Tundra 5.7 before I ditch it for the V6 turbo. I've actually been considering going to junkyards and pulling a bunch of those 5.7s from cars that are wrecked, like trucks that are wrecked but not bad in the front. I'm getting so familiar with that engine now. All of a sudden, I'm like, I should start trying to stick this into other things. And I'm betting that you can get them pretty cheap because there was a lot of 5.7 turbos made. So I do like the 5.7. It'll be interesting to see how long it lasts in my Tundra, because my Tundra pretty much only gets rough miles, but so far, no issues. Got Dave in Canada saying hi. First time. Good to see you. Here in Cali, it's America's Tire. Oh, same as Discount Tire. That's good. There's a lot of people that like Discount Tire. It seems like, I wonder if they're just one of the chains out there that is actually doing a better job of holding on to people that know what they're doing. The first Raptor had a really big engine. I think it's a 6.7 liter. It's a 6.7 V8, I believe. If you guys know, I am not we have Raptor that we use down in Baja for our guide truck, and that was one of the twin turbo V6s, and that thing has been nothing but trouble and a disaster. And I love to bag on it because even when you take it in, when it blew its motor and we took it in to the dealership, the tech looked up at us and the very first thing he said is, "Oh yeah, that's a really delicate engine." And I was like, I don't think you're supposed to say things like that when you work at a Ford dealership about your Ford truck, your flagship Ford truck. But the first gen just seems to work. I have a friend that has 2 of them that they use exclusively almost for driving on dirt, and they put thousands upon thousands. We're talking tens of thousands of dirt miles on it a year, and they've had these things for years and no issues. So that's a pretty legitimate truck. I actually wouldn't mind beating one of those up and playing around with one of those one of these days. Let's see. The new KO3, I don't know what everybody's opinion is I put these on. I've been actually testing some KO3s for a while now. I like them. I'm impressed a lot. They essentially, a lot of the change in design was essentially to make the tire stronger because all the vehicles are getting heavier and have more torque. And the middle lugs of tires, when you have more torque and are heavier, basically just get wore out extra quick. So that's how you kind of end up with a lot of cupping and things like that on the rear ends of the large trucks. So they kind of fixed all that for the KO3. So it's going to still work. It's going to work a lot better on larger trucks. There was people that owned large trucks and towed that definitely got fed up with a KO2 and just said it couldn't handle it. You know, and they went and found another tire brand. So I think KO3 is trying to win some of those people back. I don't see any issues with the new KO3. Honestly, it's going to handle rain way better. It's going to handle snow and ice way better. The tread pattern on the center of the tire is closer together. So I think some people are thinking that means it's not going to be as good off-road, but they did a lot on the outer edges of the tire to make it handle mud better. So yeah, the middle of the tire is going to get full of mud, but that's kind of true of almost every AT tire out there. But they did change the outside tire to be more aggressive, to handle mud better. So I don't really see any reason to avoid them. The biggest change I would say on the market is I feel like it used to be, you know, you go 10 years ago and BFG was one of the few companies that was making a good AT tire. And now BFG is, I think it's still a really good tire, but I think they've got a lot of competition now. So you've got the Falcon AT4 that's been reinforced. Again, their first iteration, the AT3W, was a great tire for smaller SUVs and small trucks. But the second you put it on anything heavy, that thing got chewed up. So they did the same thing. They reinforced it and came out with the AT4. So there's a lot of good competition out there in the AT land. Yeah, do what this guy says, or he might get, you know, he's for being an angry camper, this guy's awfully supportive. Nice. David Canada, I see about the KO3. Yeah, I did a video where I compared the new one versus the old one, and then I even did the updated one recently that shows you the brand new wide release KO3 where they reinforced the center. It's a pretty interesting tire at this point. So far, I got no complaints on the vehicles I'm running it on. It seems to be working great. We've got an Australian in the house. It's always about, so it's like 7 in the morning there. It is. It's funny he's saying this to us. I like watching the channel to see the American builds. I like watching the Australian channels to see the Australian builds. I love seeing the Nissan Patrols. There was a Nissan Patrol for sale in Marketplace recently over here that I wanted to buy, but I have way too many projects going on, so I couldn't get to it. But they've got the Nissan Patrols over there. I have a Troopy over here, but that's like rare. Like in Australia, those things are like standard fare. They're out there everywhere. So it's funny. We think your guys' cars are cool. You think ours are cool. Everybody likes what they can't get, right? KP, sounds like somebody just stumbled across my channel. Well, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate the support. It always helps us be able to make better stuff for you guys. How do you calibrate your speedo on the Tundra when you put 35s on it? I don't. I tend to run past one of those cop signs and get a measurement of how far off I am, and then I just do the math in my head. Calibrating speedos is pretty expensive. Trying to figure that all out, and I basically change tires too often to worry about it. So I always look for one of those police speedo things that tell you whether you're speeding or not, and just find out how many miles I'm off. It's usually going to be somewhere between 4 and 7. It's not usually much more than that. So that's kind of what I do. All right, let's see what else. I do not know this one. Hike Golf says, anyone here have experience with the Goodyear Ultra Terrain ATs? The Ultra Terrain, I don't have experience with that, but isn't the Ultra Terrain the one that ships on the Broncos? If it's the one that ships on the Broncos, I've heard a lot of complaints about that tire chipping. But yeah, that I am not positive on that. I'll have to look that up. I actually am talking to Goodyear right now, so I don't have their full lineup in the shop yet to be able to like test and compare yet. But we do have some Goodyears on the way. I don't think I'm getting an Ultra Terrain though. This is interesting. So 2025 4Runner, go with TRD Pro or go TRD and aftermarket. So it really depends on what you're using it for. The TRD, the Toyota did a smart thing. They were trying to sell TRDs, but TRDs were made to go fast in the desert. And then everybody got into overlanding, which is not going fast in the desert and has sometimes even more like rock crawling, but more than anything, it involves putting a lot of weight on your vehicle. So the thing with the TRD Pro is I would never go with the TRD Pro if you're going to add weight to your vehicle. It's tuned. It's made to go fast the way that it is. If you're going to go bolt a bunch of stuff on it and stick a tent on it or all those types of things, then you're basically ruining it because it's made to go fast at its stock weight. Can probably handle a little bit extra, but not much. So that's kind of the TRD Pro. That's the go fast in the desert truck. If you're planning on overlanding it and loading it up with tons and tons of gear, then if you want something from the factory that's ready for that, then I would go look at the Trailhunter because that has those new Old Man Emu shocks that are pretty sweet and can handle the weight. And if you're willing to do your own builds, then definitely you just go with, not the TRD Pro, the standard TRD Trail Edition. They keep changing the names on this stuff, but it's essentially one up from the SR5. And that's the one you go because all the stuff you're going to be taking off, you don't want to be taking off stuff that was already upgraded and you had to pay for. So in my opinion, only go TRD Pro if you're totally into high speed desert stuff and you're going to keep it pretty light. Well, I'm going to have to check those out. Anytime something's an exclusive like that, I feel like it's just a slight redesign on a different tire. So I'll check those out, Hike Golf, and see if I can get anywhere on that. Yeah, Matthew is saying go 4th gen and just mod it. I mean, you can definitely save a lot of money doing that. The other thing is right now the 2025 did get postponed, so it's not going to be out early next year. It's slated more for mid-year, so it kind of depends on when you're trying to get a car. The one thing I will say for what Toyota is doing is if you don't know how to build a truck and do all the mods, some of the new additions are pretty cool in that you can get all that stuff on it coming from the factory, all covered in a warranty, which is kind of nice if you're too scared to like attack your car and tear apart your brand new car. Never thought of that. I noticed that the rear is lower than the front on the TRD Pro. Rear is lower than the front. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't actually checked the exact height clearances on that. It does suck being a Nissan fan. Yeah. There's a channel that I know that drives exclusively Nissans, and I just applaud him for it because I just feel like it's like extra work to be a Nissan off-roader in the United States. Everything's harder. I mean, really, you have Jeep, who has a million aftermarket parts for every single thing, and so much that they're all cheap. And then the next is Toyota, and we don't even have half what Jeep has. And then by the time you get to any other brand like Nissan, you're just like off the map. Like it's so far down when you're looking at the availability of aftermarket parts. Yes, we definitely. I will build a GX 550 one of these days, but watching everything going on with recalls and engines right now, we're sitting back and we're watching. I really do like that platform. Um, and I would love to do to the problem is you're going to buy an extremely expensive car and then I would just be taking a sawzall to it. So I'm going to have to take my time and wait. Maybe I could luck out and find a wrecked one. But I do really like that platform and I like a lot of the stuff they did to it. I like that platform better than the new Land Cruiser. I don't have anything super negative to say about the new Land Cruiser, but I like the engine options on the GX better. You know me, I always like to go with the bigger engine. Yeah, I have a 2001 XJ and parts are plentiful. I'm doing a build challenge right now that we're filming that will be out on the channel, and it's a car that I'm building against a friend of mine who's doing an XJ in the competition, and it's just a joke. Like he can get a bumper for his car brand new for like $400. Like the cheapest bumper you can find for like the Toyota that I'm working on is like $1,200. So you just have to end up like making your own stuff. But yeah, when you're if you're doing Jeep comparison to Toyota, Jeep aftermarket is absolutely insane. There's so many options out there. The other thing is even used parts. Like he wanted to put lockers in his XJ. He just went and found fully built axles that somebody had rebuilt, stuck lockers in, and already re-geared. And he bought those for what it would cost me to buy one air locker. And you're talking axles and everything. So it's pretty crazy to be a Jeep fan. Yeah. 139 for an XJ bumper, as long as you're, dude. There's a rear bumper for this is a 2000 Land Cruiser I'm working on. The cheapest rear bumper I can find for it is still like, I think it was $990, and it's still a kit. Like they send you all the pieces and you have to weld it together yourself. And that was the cheapest one, and it's $990. It really is crazy. The new Nissan Armada finally. What's this? The new Nissan Armada finally now the Nissan Patrol. Is that what they did? Did they finally rename it? Are we gonna get the Patrol here in the U.S.? I'm behind on that. I'm behind on my Nissan news. Yeah, Coastal makes weld-on kits for the 100 series Land Cruiser. Well, I'm excited. So the build challenge that we're doing, we already filmed the first episode. See, this is great. If anybody that joins these things, you guys are the only people that get any of this information. But we filmed the first episode, so we had to take our vehicles 100% stock, the way that we bought them. So I have a 2000 Land Cruiser, and of course, it came stock with like the running panels that are like the steps. So even though it's a Land Cruiser, it only has like 4 inches of clearance because of the like steps that are stuck on the side. And I'm not allowed to take those off for the first episode. And then it had Michelin tires on it that I'm sure are great tires, but they were 100% road tires. And they were towards the end of their life. So it was completely bald tires. And it has no lockers. It has a center locker like all the Land Cruisers do, but it didn't come with the front or rear. So we had to go take that on a rock crawling trail. And it was me against his XJ. Now his XJ is old as well, and it at least had all-terrain tires on it that had tread, so it already had better tread than me. It did not have any lockers. It had bigger tires than I had, and what was the other thing? Oh, it had speed wobble, like death wobble. Like if he goes over 40 miles per hour on like on a backcountry road, it does the whole like wheel wobble thing, like all over the place. So it's a pretty funny episode because we're both taking vehicles that have no business actually off-roading yet until we fix them, and we had to try to get them through this like level 4 rock crawling trail, and it was tough challenge for either car to get anywhere. So that episode has already been filmed. We got to edit that, and we're going to release all these like back to back to back. So they're not going to be out for a little bit, but it's a Jeep versus Toyota competition. It's a budget build, so we have you have to, including the vehicle and all the modifications and everything you do to the vehicle, you have to stay under 20K, and I'm nervous to see if I can. It's going to get judged on a bunch of categories, but of course, one of the categories is going to be rock crawling, and the Jeep definitely is going to have an advantage. So it'll be interesting to see by the time we're done with this build what categories I can win versus which ones I lose. It's going to be really bad if I do lose. There's like a list of punishments. So for every category that you lose, the other person gets to pick something, and it's bad stuff. Like it is not stuff I want to be doing. So I got to try to win as many categories as I can. Yeah, I don't know if you guys watch. There's a channel called Venture to Rome, because a lot of people that watch my channel like Toyotas and don't do Jeep stuff. He's like a Jeep channel, so he's local here in Idaho. So that's why we're doing the whole competition thing. Should be pretty fun. Yeah, the caster is way off on that XJ. But that was what, if you guys, I know I put the link in for the new video that I did today that I put out. That's the new video link right there. But that was what we did when we changed the ride height on the Land Cruiser, on the LX 450. And it was definitely had the caster off, and it was terrifying to drive that thing. So we got the caster correction done. We nailed it this time. Thing's super stable. But yeah, he's got work cut out for him on that XJ. But at least an XJ, by default, an XJ should be easier to get to be a good rock crawler than a Land Cruiser, just simply because a Land Cruiser is just really big. It's bigger, it's heavier. So I'm going to have my work cut out for me as well. It should be interesting. Yep, short arms and worn bushings are a start. He's not. I'm not a great mechanic. I'm a mediocre mechanic. He's probably even a little more mediocre mechanic than I am. So, but he has more money to work with because his car cost him, I think, $3,500. So he's got a lot of budget to work with to do the build. Mine costs 10, so I have way less budget than him, but I definitely have a better starting point, like an absolutely reliable vehicle that drives and runs great. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, XJs wheel pretty good. I mean, the one weak point there is they don't have any kind of traction control at all. So if you don't have any lockers whatsoever, if you do get a tire in the air, it's really easy to get them stuck. So, and that's one of the things, part of the challenge on purpose, we're making it hard on ourselves, is we're trying to go through like the very first challenge that we did that we filmed that was hilarious. We were just both laughing so hard. We each had our wheel, like our rear wheel, like 2.5 to 3 feet in the air. And when you have 0 lockers, he's just spinning tires like crazy and can't get any forward momentum. So that's the one thing. Engine mods, if you're talking about engine mods on the Land Cruiser, I'm not going to do much. It's got a V8 in it. It's really reliable. I don't want to mess with that. So more than anything, it was just I went through the whole entire engine and everything in there to just make sure it was good. Because, you're talking about a 24-year-old vehicle. There's a lot of standard maintenance stuff you got to do in there. But yeah, that's a million-mile engine on a lot of those Land Cruisers. So that I don't mess with that. I'm not going to touch that. I'm more worried about lockers, traction, like wheels, clearance, rock sliders, because even if you can't fully clear stuff, if you got rock sliders, you can pivot your way around and over stuff. So I've got to do a decent amount of armor, get better approach and departure angles, all that kind of stuff. Oh, nice. So you've got your XJs on Rubicon axles and 37s. That luckily is not what I'm going to be competing against. I don't think he can pull that off. At least not with the budget that he has and the amount of work. He's got to do a lot of work just to get his car like running correctly. So he has to put a little bit more of his build budget into mechanicals. Nope. I've got 100%. I am not kidding. I have 100% rust-free Land Cruiser that is 24 years old. I don't know how that's possible, but if you throw it up on the lift, the black undercoating it's not been painted at all. So it's the original undercoating and it is spotless. So this is a car that was spent a lot of time in the garage and a lot of time on roads that don't have salt. So if you're out in the West and you can avoid the states that do the salt on the roads, like Nevada, you can actually find some really good cars out here in the West that don't have a lot of rust. Yeah, you got to have mountains to have rock crawling. I feel like in Florida, I still believe the highest altitude in Florida, besides a building, is probably an overpass on the freeway. So, but you guys have a lot of wheeling nearby because you can head up to, I mean, there's tons of stuff in Arkansas. There's tons of stuff and there's famous stuff up in Tennessee. See, there's definitely stuff over there for wheeling. Okay, well, I got to go eat dinner with my family, but I think I got to most everybody's questions on this list. If you haven't yet, go check out the new video. Tell me what you think of the new bumper on the Land Cruiser, because we had to give Nate his sticker bumper back, and we went ahead and got the local Taco Vinyl guys to put a big skin or wrap on a bumper for us. So yeah, go check out the new hood on the new 80 and check out that video. Tell me what you think of the hood. And I'm seeing Soup's on. Yeah, I was seeing I live out in Vancouver, Canada. I need to get to Vancouver. I have big plans to get up there, but winter is coming. So I think this is a next year activity. There you go. All right, guys. We'll talk to you guys next week. Hopefully we will do this again.